Perception is projection.
What's that mean?
It means that you see what you expect to see. You perceive your own projections of the world.
You had that fucking hyper-viral moment about the scar makeup. Tell it again for the people that don't know.
So they did an experiment where they told a group of women that they're going to put scarring on their faces or visual disfigurements of some kind. And then they would go into an interview. And the purpose of the experiment is to work out whether the interviewer is going to treat them differently because of their facial disfigurement. What they didn't tell the women is as they were leaving to go for the interview, they touched up their makeup and without showing them the facial disfigurement, removed the scarring. So they went into the interview thinking they're facially scarred, but they weren't. And they came back reporting massive levels of discrimination, specific comments that the interviewer had made about them that they perceived. So you see what you expect to see. This is why teaching people victimhood is so dangerous, because it makes them victims. It makes them expect certain things, and then they will react differently. I mean, police interactions are a good example of this. If you expect that the police are going to treat you badly because of who you are, you're going to act in a different way and therefore cause more problems. And I say this as somebody, I was a very angry young man, and my wife used to piss me off so much. She would constantly say, like, I'd get into an argument with somebody and I'd be like, that guy's a prick, he did this. And she'd be like, you are creating those situations. You know that, right? And I was like, no, you're... And it took me like a good 10 years to work out. Absolutely, I was. Abso-fucking-lutely, I was. Right? So we perceive the things that we put out into the world. And this is, Peterson talks about this, is you can't see without hierarchy because your brain has to know what to focus on. And what you focus on is a function of the filter that you project onto the world. I'm focusing on you now instead of the bookshelf behind you. I could have been sitting here picking out a good book this entire time. It's been a waste. But so that's what's happening there. But it's interesting. I mean, I said something at the time. I was like, look, these creepy men need to stop staring at women in gyms. Otherwise, they're going to stop wearing lingerie to go there. And then everybody loses. and the point I'm trying to make is that, like, this is I'm going to say something very controversial here, Chris. You ready? Men are attracted to women.
I've heard about that.
Let's sit with that for a moment.
I've heard about that.
So, this idea that you're going to be barely clad and men aren't going to notice that.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not what our brains are for.
Our
brains are for looking at your ass. That's what they're for. That's what they evolved for. I know it's crudely put.
I learned the term for this new style of gym short. It's got what's called a butt scrunch.
Right.
Have you seen the butt scrunch?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, you're a married man.
Online.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Someone showed me a photo. I tried to look away.
Yeah.
Which is, for the people that haven't seen it and aren't training in gyms with like 20-year-olds in, it's like a normal pair of shorts, training shorts for a girl, like kind of tight, but then it's got kind of like a thong bit that separates the ass cheeks out, which has been normalized very quick. Do you remember the first time that wearing just leggings became a thing? Because I do. Because it wasn't when I went to uni. So it was after 2006. It was after, maybe it happened while I was at uni, so maybe before 2010. But I remember thinking, wow, that's like everything on display. That's kind of like no pants.
Yeah.
But then also kind of not. And then now it's like, oh, that's kind of like no pants. Well, like that's kind of like just a thong, but blue. Or like purple or lilac. Or
I feel you've dedicated a lot of time to describing this accurately, which I appreciate.
I'm a casual ornithologist on the side. I wanted to tell you about this.
Can I say something just on that before you move on? Because I think we sort of like we're trying to pretend things all the time. Which, yes, men shouldn't be pigs, right? We can all agree on that. But in order to not be a pig, I first have to see your ass that you've shoved in my face, right? So I see it. I am then after that not a pig, right? But I see it, and it's there. And my brain isn't calibrated or designed or evolved. I mean, the sole purpose of our genes is to reproduce, right? How is that? Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, there's a female frame that's placed around this conversation specifically that I don't think fully, I would maybe go as far as to say, like, sympathizes with the male brain reward system. There is an inbuilt reward system that men have for looking at sexually gratifying objects, even things like two rocks that look a bit like boobs.
Right.
Right?
What's the first thing a boy does when he gets a calculator?
Writes boobs. Yep.
Now, is that because of toxic masculinity, or is that because men evolved for millions of years throughout evolutionary history, including pre-human animals, to seek the opposite sex, and the drive in males is just overwhelmingly strong? Now, once you have noticed that, how you act is where culture and society and civilizing men comes in, right? Just because you saw someone's ass doesn't mean that you are allowed to go and stare at it or grab it or whatever. But you saw it, and you're not. It's almost like it happens, and then you're like, okay, I need to.
Fuck yeah.
That's how it works. Now, what do you want me to do about that? What are you supposed to do about that? I'm open to suggestions.
Blinkers, blinker men. Big.
Some people would be in favor of that.
The big veil that goes over the top. Right. A little bit of inside baseball for people who aren't familiar with what's going on in the podcasting world. And apparently this one slipped by you as well.